Very pleased to be joined now by the general manager of the Wingham Ironmen, Mr. Chad Haggitt. Chad, how are you? How was the summer?
Busy, very busy. Lots going on.
I don't doubt it, and I know that you're kind of new to the organization. Obviously, you're not new to hockey fans around here. Coming out of the Walkerton organization, obviously this is a bit of a change for you, stepping into the GM chair. What kind of facilitated the move, and why was Wingham a good fit for you?
I think, I guess two parts there. The first part, what facilitated the move, once the seasons were done, Corey reached out to me and just wondered what my interest level was. Um, I coached in Wingham for seven parts of 7 years, so I live in town. Driving to Walkerton every week, it's not far, but over time, it makes sense to come back home. And when the opportunity came, it made sense for me to come back. Um, as far as the GM role from coaching, that's a big step. It's different for sure. The biggest part that played in that was I have two daughters that are playing hockey, and I thought it might free me up a little bit being off the junior C bench where you're, 10, 12 hours a week with the team. And I would say I'm already learning that that may not be the case, but we're pretty early on, so we'll see how it goes. But so far, so good.
Well, and you're obviously not unfamiliar to people in Wingham. Like you said, you've got a great history with the team. And, as you reflect back on last year's squad, obviously you were watching them from a bit of a different viewpoint, mind you. But last year's team, a sixth place finish. And as you look forward to this year's team, who are some guys from last year's squad that you'll be missing this year that can't return? Obviously, we know guys age out, they move on to different programs. Who are some key contributors from last year's Ironman squad that we won't see on the ice this year?
There's a few for sure. The first one, that comes to mind is obviously Garrett Golly. Tough to replace, arguably one of the better netminders in the league. When he aged out, that makes it tough. That leaves a pretty big hole in our roster. Second, obviously, Captain Colson Fisher. He's gone. Again, the guy that plays 25, 30 minutes a night on a given night. He's tough to replace. So to lose those two are probably I would say the two biggest keys from last year's group. Again, I wasn't here, but that's just going on from what I'm hearing from Dawson and the other guys. So
Obviously, you do get some continuity there in the coaching staff, obviously with the aforementioned Dawson Fisher, who obviously has a lot of ties to the organization as well. And I know he's very proud to be the head coach of that team. Talk a little bit about your staff and the relationship with them and how key it is to kind of have that good relationship in terms of rebuilding the team.
yeah, so Dawson, I've known Dawson a little bit. I wouldn't say we knew each other really well, but know each other to say hello and speak to each other, and had that kind of mutual respect from bench to bench. And I just know how knowledgeable he is. And we went to a lot of the Listowel playoff games, and just even walking into those games, just the respect he gets from other teams in the round and the way that people talk to him. Very well respected, very knowledgeable hockey guy. Jared's a player on the defense, Jared Logan, that I coached. Um, I know that Jared was a sponge when he played. He took in everything we gave him, so he's very knowledgeable on the back end. And as far as the forwards, we were looking for a piece, and it's not that the guys were there have done a bad job in the past, but we were looking for someone with a little more, I guess, experience is the word. Someone who had more experience with the forward, so he could kind of work on some offensive stuff. So we brought in Jim Fritzley, and I'm familiar with Jim through the Clinton Radars. I've known Jim for a lot of years through them. I know what Jim's an intense individual. He demands a lot, but he's fair. I've already noticed just what he's doing as far as like working on a forecheck and a power play and the things that Dawson wanted him to do, and he's definitely jumped in with both feet. So I'm very happy with our coaching staff this year. I think they're going to do a great job.
Now, obviously, as you look forward to this year, like you said, busy summer trying to put a roster together, and it's incredible. It's already September. So, as you kind of look at what you've got returning and maybe even some new additions, what can fans get excited about in terms of some key returning players from last year's group?
I think the biggest thing that we've tried to figure out talking with Doss is that last year's leading scorer had 21 points, and that's something that Wingham's been very stingy as far as giving up goals, but at the same time, we need some guys that can put the puck in the net. So when it became an opportunity to add a guy like Tanner Dietz with the new rule that came in, that was a nice piece, and I think his brother Dawson to come along with him will help. I think a year with some of the guys we've had on the roster, with the Bloombergs, with Micah Cranbrink, those guys coming for another year, a little year older. I think we may see some more offense, and we were happy to have Tate Burfells, a 16-year-old. He had 2 goals in our preseason game against Wellesley, the first one, and he's a big, strong kid. He can put the puck in the net too. So I'm looking forward to that end of it. I think that's we've definitely made some strides there. We're still working on the rest, but that's our biggest, I would say, improvement.
Now, obviously, you mentioned that Wingham, they've always had a tradition of having really good defensive cores, and you look back at last year's team, and there were a number of guys. Obviously, losing Colson's going to be tough, like you said, but Tate Bramhill had a really strong season for the Ironmen. Logan Burham, obviously, guys like Tyson Fisher. Who are some guys on the defensive side of the puck that you're excited about?
Well, I think those three you named we're excited about those guys, having them back. To have a guy like Jed Corson Schmidt's going to be here for a full season. He came in late to the team last year. We brought in Jaden Meyer, who played in Huron Bruce minor hockey. So far, we're happy with how he's progressing. And we're going to try to use some APs. Luke Fisher, Tyson's younger brother from Brussels, hoping to get into some games this year with us. And I mean, he's an 08. It would have been nice to be able to put him on a card, but as an AP, I think he'll be able to play as well.
Just in terms of, obviously at this level, it's so important to have local minor hockey products coming through and new players that people can kind of get attached to, certainly from the area. And that's obviously very important. Who are some other guys that you'd like to maybe highlight that you're excited to showcase to the fans?
I think we seem to have a contingent coming from Vlad Brussels this year with the two Fishers I mentioned, and we signed Brett McCutcheon, uh, a local fastball player who's actually a pretty good hockey player too. Big, strong kid, ran over a few guys in the preseason. He's going to be fun to watch. Um, Other than that, it's more or less the same group. It's the same group of kids. We still have, Nate Noah Bloomberg from town. Um, we did have a lot of young 08s that are coming up from the midget program that may get a chance to AP throughout the year, but most of the roster is pretty much the same as last year. So the local ones from last year are going to be the same local ones this year.
Which is obviously somewhat advantageous because the team was fairly young last year, but a lot of guys, that got their feet wet are going to come back, and you've got that continuity. A lot of guys are already familiar with the system that Fish likes to play, and what it takes to be an Ironman. You mentioned last year, obviously your leading scorer. Great to have Micah Crane bring back, and that name has a lot of play in the area for sure. And he tied in team scoring in terms of the lead of it with Jesse Coombs, and we all watched what his brother did last year, and I mean he's very similar in that sense. Is he going to be back on the roster this year?
Micah will be back. He's on a card as of now. Jesse obviously left. He went to Waterloo. But I mean, never say never. If those guys, we'd love to have them back if it ever worked out. But yeah, we'll see how it goes. Micah's just a worker. Like, he just comes and puts in the work every game and every practice. That's what you get out of him. His younger brother Timothy's been out as well. Again, another AP. I think he's playing here for the Lakers this year. So that the family seems to have hockey players that come and go to work. So it's kind of nice to have those guys in the local area too.
It certainly is, that's for sure. And, Wingham has always been blessed with a lot of great leaders over the years. You obviously mentioned tough to lose your captain, obviously, but who's maybe sticking out? I don't know if you've decided on a leadership core yet, but if you have, who's that going to be? And if not, who's kind of sticking out?
Yeah, so the banquet before I actually came on with the team, it was announced that Tate Bramhill will take on the role as captain. Um, we also have, now that we've added him, and Tanner Dietz is the leadership he's shown in just a short period of time he's been with us. I mean, coming off a Sutherland Cup in Listowel, just a great kid, down to earth, very quiet, mild mannered, and he's been a guy that's really taken like a Tate Bearfelds under his wing and kind of helping him along. And it's really nice to be able to have a player like that to come into Wingham and help some of these younger guys. And I think it'll go a long way as the season progresses.
Absolutely. Well, hey, DT was one of my favorite kids to cover, so it'll be exciting that we're going to still have him on our CKNX airwaves, and great family too. His dad is one of our favorites. He's a character too, so that'll be a lot of fun having a Deets still in the local junior hockey scene, obviously. And you obviously mentioned Garrett Gawley, who, I mean, is a guy that you almost can't replace. I mean, he was, you mentioned it, one of the best goalies. For my money, I thought he was the best goalie in the league for a good amount of the time that he played. Just a monster back there. Tough guy to replace, but every good team needs net minding. What does your crease look like this year?
Well, it's probably the most cloudy, I guess we'll say, as far as what we're doing right now. Caleb Meyer obviously is back. We've got him signed. He played the last preseason game. After that, it's really up in the air. We've got a couple kids that are still out skating with us. We're really not sure. We were kind of looking for something bigger to maybe come along that didn't really materialize. And I mean, it still could. We're not going to say it won't, but right now we're just not sure. And we definitely need somebody else. And we're reaching out, trying to see what comes down, if there's any B drop downs and stuff like that. But right now, Caleb's the one as far as like what we have for goaltending, and might have more news after tonight at practice. But for now, yeah, he's the only one we have on a card at this point.
And he adjusted really well last year. Obviously, there was some ups and downs, of course, but looked like a really, really stellar piece. And I'm excited to see what you guys do in terms of rounding out that position. I mean, Wingham, you guys have had a long history of pretty good goaltenders coming through town, so I'm sure it'll get sorted out. I want to ask you finally as well, Chad, and we touched on this earlier, obviously, but you've got a long history with the franchise. You're a Wingham guy. Obviously, it's a real hometown feel. What is it that's so special about that Ironman franchise and playing and celebrating junior hockey in the Wingham community? What makes it special?
I I don't know what it actually is. It's one of those things where I grew up in Blythe, so like when I was growing up, my buddies are playing in Wingham, and you go to the games on Friday nights and just kind of get into it. And then when I get into the coaching, and I came to Wingham, they gave me my first job in junior hockey as far as a coach goes, and I was here for a bunch of years, and so that makes it special. And then when I left, and Walker gave me an opportunity, and I said to Candy, I said, I'm still always checking to see how Wingham does, and that was part of in the back of my mind. Not that I wouldn't coach hard against them or wasn't worried about my own team, because don't trust me, I want to win wherever I'm at. But it's always something about Wingham. When Corey called, it was really hard for me not to say, yeah, you know what, I'm interested in that for sure. And it's the community, it's the people that come to the games, it's just the history of it. The Doug Neals that are still out there selling goal lottery tickets for us, and there's Steve Coulter always asking. He was there when I was there the first time, wondering how things are going. It's just people are interested. It's small town feel, but it's just a great group of people in town here that we deal with, and it's fun to be around, and that's what brought me back. So
Makes a lot of sense. Well, hey, there's a good radio station in town too, so that always helps as well, doesn't it? All jokes aside, Hags, it's great to have you back in town. It's great to have you back as part of the Ironman organization. We wish you the best of luck this season. We're really looking forward to running into you at the rink numerous times this year. Thanks so much for doing this, my friend, and good luck with the year.
yeah, thank you very much. Appreciate it.